Hey everybody, Sam Kavaris in the Nimnicht Buick GMC Sports Update. Super Bowl is over, which means the season is over, and the Seattle Seahawks are the NFL champions. It is not surprising, and as I said last week, wouldn't have surprised me either way the game went. The only surprise was how lopsided it was, but when you can put pressure on the quarterback in a Super Bowl situation like that with just four guys, then all of a sudden it alters what happens. The Denver Broncos got there through Peyton Manning and this kind of high-powered 3, 4, 5 wide offense, and then all of a sudden when you can disrupt that with just four guys, not blitzing, and then play 4 linebackers, 3 linebackers behind it in order to kind of clog things up, then you've got a recipe for success. But the key is the ability to get pressure on the quarterback with just those 4 guys. They added Clay Highs, Cliff Averill. They have Michael Bennett in there who led the team in sacks. This was a team that's built exactly the way that Pete Carroll wanted it to be built and performed in that situation exactly right. Clearly Denver had an off night, and it started with 12 seconds into the game where they snapped the ball into the end zone. I'm not somebody who thinks it diminishes Peyton Manning's legacy, because I think if you switch Manning on the field, then Seattle still wins in a runaway. I thought last year Jack Del Rio's defense gave up a late touchdown that kept Manning from going to the Super Bowl as well. So I think he's in the pantheon of great quarterbacks in the history of the NFL, and people will debate how good each one is forever, and that's fine. But I just don't think that there's anything the matter with Peyton Manning and his ability to play the game. What is interesting and what should be encouraging for Jaguar fans is that Gus Bradley came out of that culture in Seattle. That music during practice, the guys who went to the 2 different media days said that Seattle was the looser of the 2 teams, the more upbeat, kind of reflected their fans. Gus Bradley was absolutely a part of that. Big defensive backs. I mean, is Jonathan Cyprien, the next, big defensive safety kind of guy? Is Dwayne Grotz the next Richard Sherman? Who knows? But this is the culture that Gus Bradley came out of and what he is trying to build here. How long will it take? Hard to say. But he certainly has taken the Jaguars on that road to start, and that's, to me, the interesting part for Jaguar fans as well. Shad Khan hosted a luncheon last Friday, by the way, for all kinds of sponsors and so forth, people from Jacksonville at the Waldorf, and clearly is still trying to build as to what the Jaguars have and the sponsorship behind as one of 32 NFL teams. Not just necessarily that a team in Jacksonville, but he clearly realizes that we do not have the corporate underpinning that's necessary in town. So he's expanding the base, and the interest in the Jaguars is very high, particularly because of the game in London. So that's been a plus for the franchise all along. And of course, the other connection was Mark Lamping was the guy who's the president of the Jaguars, who built MetLife Stadium out for the owner of the Jets, Woody Johnson, and the owner of the Giants, the Mara family. So lots of connections up there in New York. It wasn't quite the zoo that you would expect, any different than Manhattan is on a regular Saturday night. A lot of difficulty getting to the game. The NFL says clearly they'll look at that. But I think based on the fact that the weather was good, and obviously 10 hours later it started to snow, but based on all the things and the experiences that they had, I don't think it's out of possibility that the Super Bowl will be back in New York within the next 10 years. What will be interesting now is to see if Boston and Philadelphia and Baltimore and Washington now make bids, since this, according to the NFL, was such a success, to hold the games in their towns as well. Hey, it's National Signing Day on Wednesday. We'll have complete coverage on Channel 4. You can follow us all on Twitter and all the different things. It's a big day for students and parents and schools, and we'll see who Florida State, Georgia, Miami ends up getting and how that impacts the next 3, 4, 5 years at all of those schools as well. I'm Sam Kavaris, and that's the Nimnicht Buick GMC Sports Update.